When the alarm rings in the morning, what is the first thing you do? Do you roll over, grab your phone, and let the glow of the screen pour into your eyes before you've even taken a full breath? Do you scroll through headlines designed to spark fear, or glance at social media posts that make you compare your life before you've even stood up? If so, you're not alone. Most people in today's world begin their day this way, and without even realizing it, they hand over their power before the day has even begun. The very first choice of the morning quietly determines the direction of everything that follows. But imagine a different beginning. Imagine waking and instead of rushing, instead of consuming, you pause, you breathe deeply. You remind yourself, this day belongs to me. You don't allow the noise of the world to claim you before you've even had the chance to remember who you are. You step into the day with command rather than chaos. That single shift, the decision to own your first moments, creates a ripple that shapes your focus, your resilience, and your sense of control. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Those words were not just lofty poetry. They were his armor. He used them to remind himself that each day is a gift and that the way you enter it matters. If he needed those reminders 2,000 years ago, how much more do we need them now? In a world overflowed with distractions, what you're about to hear is not a list of morning hacks or productivity tricks. It's something deeper. It's a way of reclaiming the morning as sacred ground, guided by timeless Stoic wisdom, but adapted to the chaos of modern life. If you stay with me, you'll see why the morning is not just a time of day. It's a foundation of freedom. Let me show you what this difference looks like. Imagine two people who wake up at the exact same time, on the exact same kind of morning. The first person hears the alarm, sighs heavily, and without thinking, grabs the phone. Within seconds, their attention is no longer theirs. A news headline sparks irritation, a work email triggers anxiety, and a scroll through social media fills them with subtle comparisons that whisper, "You're already behind." By the time their feet touch the floor, their mind is scattered, their emotions unsettled, and their mood fragile. They step into the day already reacting, already chasing, already exhausted by a race they didn't choose. Now consider the second person. Their alarm sounds, and though they might also feel tired, they sit up immediately. They don't negotiate with themselves. They don't search for a reason to delay. Instead of reaching outward, they turn inward. They take a slow breath, drink a glass of water, maybe whisper a simple truth. The day is mine. For a few moments, they let silence be their companion. They don't need to check the outside world yet, because they are setting the tone for their own inner world first. And when they finally stand, their steps are grounded. They move with clarity, not chaos. Both people have the same 24 hours ahead of them. Both will face challenges, surprises, and demands. But one begins already drained, already surrendered. The other begins steady, anchored, and prepared. And this difference, though invisible to the outside eye, grows throughout the day like a hidden current. One drifts, the other directs. One reacts, the other leads. This is a fork in the road every morning offers us. And the choice doesn't require wealth, status, or luck. It requires awareness. It requires intention. It requires the courage to take back what most people give away without a thought. The first moments of the morning. The Stoics believe that life is a series of battles. Most of them fought not with weapons, but within the mind. And they understood that the morning is the opening of the battlefield. It is the moment when your defenses are lowest, when your identity has not yet been set. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he would meet people who were selfish, ignorant, or cruel, but that he could still choose his own response. Seneca advised preparing for life's hardships before they arrived, so they could never strike as surprises. Epictetus taught that while the world might do what it will, you always retain the power of your own reason, your own choice. All of these lessons converge on one truth: the way you begin matters. Think of the morning as your territory. It is your kingdom, small but sacred. If you allow noise to invade it, news headlines, endless scrolling, arguments online, you'll surrender your crown before you've even dressed. But if you guard it fiercely, if you claim silence, reflection, and clarity as your first actions, then you step into the day as a ruler, not a servant. The hours ahead may still bring storms, but you'll be steady because you began with strength. You felt this difference before. On days when you rushed, overslept, or filled the first hour with noise, how did the rest of the day feel? Scattered, fragile, out of sync. And on days when you paused, moved with intention, maybe wrote down a few words or stretched your body, how much more centered were you? The circumstances were the same, but the self you brought into them was different. That is the power of the morning. It doesn't change the world. It changes the version of you who enters it. This is why Stoicism insists on treating the morning not as a routine to get through, but as a sacred space to guard. And if you can hold that space, the rest of the day unfolds differently. Most people live at the mercy of how they feel. If they feel motivated, they rise early, they exercise, they plan, they show up. But if they feel tired, heavy, or uninspired, they roll over, hit snooze, and postpone their life for later. The problem is, later rarely comes. Motivation is a guest that visits when it pleases, but discipline is a companion you can count on every day. The Stoics never glorified comfort. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself at dawn, reminding his reluctant body that he was not born to stay under warm blankets, but to rise and live as a human being. Discipline is not about cruelty to yourself. It's about honoring your purpose. When the alarm rings and you rise without negotiation, you are training something much deeper than your schedule. You are training your identity. Each time you get up as promised, you cast a vote for the stronger version of yourself. Each time you delay, you strengthen the weaker one. Over time, these small votes build into who you truly become. Think about soldiers, athletes, or great creators. They don't wait for motivation to strike like lightning. They move regardless of mood. A runner ties their shoes in the dark morning not because it feels good, but because their commitment is bigger than their comfort. A writer puts pen to paper not because every day feels inspired, but because showing up creates the inspiration. Discipline is the engine that carries them when motivation fades. And here's the gift. Once you made the hard choice first thing in the morning, the rest of the day becomes lighter. The battle is already won. You've proven to yourself that you are not controlled by mood or impulse. You rise because it's who you are, not because it happens to feel easy today. That trust in yourself builds power, and that power begins with one simple act: standing up when the alarm rings. The moment you wake, the world is already waiting to invade. Notifications light up your phone. Headlines scream for your attention. Messages buzz with urgency that isn't really yours. Most people surrender instantly. Before their feet touch the floor, their mind has been hijacked, pulled into other people's noise. And from that point forward, the day belongs less to them and more to the chaos they allowed in. But there's another way. Instead of rushing to consume, you can choose to pause. You can begin with silence. 10 minutes, maybe even 5, where nothing enters but your breath and your own awareness. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Silence can feel strange in a world that never stops shouting. Your fingers itch to check the phone. Your mind insists you might miss something important. But in that resistance lies your strength. Because silence is not emptiness. It is space. Space where clarity can grow. The Stoics valued this deeply. Epictetus warned that improvement requires being willing to look foolish in the eyes of those who worship constant activity. To sit quietly in the morning, doing nothing but breathing, may look unproductive to the hurried world, but it is the very thing that makes the rest of your actions effective. Your mind is soft clay in those early minutes. Press noise into it, and you'll carry that noise all day. Press stillness, and you'll carry peace. Practical silence doesn't mean you need a monastery or hours of meditation. It might be sitting on the edge of your bed with eyes closed, listening to your breath. It might be stepping outside, feeling the morning air before words or screens fill your head. Some people use this time to ask simple questions. What energy do I want to carry today? What would the best version of me do first? These aren't complicated rituals. They're anchors that remind you that you are the one in charge. And here's the hidden power. When you own the first hour in silence, the noise that comes later doesn't shake you. Others may be swept away by urgency and distraction, but you remain steady because your morning was yours. In silence, you build a foundation of command. No matter how carefully you plan, life rarely unfolds exactly as you expect. You can map out your schedule, prepare your mindset, even rehearse your goals. And still, something will break the pattern. Traffic jams appear out of nowhere. Someone makes a careless remark that lingers in your thoughts. A bill arrives, an email triggers frustration, or a task takes twice as long as you imagined. For most people, these interruptions knock them completely off balance. Their calm dissolves, their mood collapses, and the day begins to feel wasted. The Stoics, however, train for this. They practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It may sound pessimistic, but it is not about expecting disaster. It's about being prepared for reality. Seneca said, "He robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand." By imagining potential difficulties in advance, the Stoic removes their sting. Instead of being shocked by setbacks, he greets them like familiar visitors. Imagine this tomorrow morning. After a few moments of silence, you ask yourself, what might challenge me today? What emotion might rise that I need to keep in check? How will I respond when that moment arrives? You might predict frustration in traffic, impatience in a meeting, or insecurity in a conversation. By naming it now, you strip a surprise. And when it appears later, you can respond as if you've already lived through it once. This practice doesn't make life darker. It makes you brighter. Athletes rehearse challenges before stepping into competition. Soldiers run drills before facing battle. Why should the inner life be any different? By rehearsing your difficulties, you strengthen your emotional muscles. You transform from someone easily shaken to someone unshakable. And the result is profound. When chaos strikes, you don't panic, you pause. When someone criticizes you, you don't crumble, you respond with calm. While others are caught off guard, you are ready. This readiness is not arrogance. It is wisdom. It is the quiet confidence of someone who has already faced the day before it started. Every morning your mind wakes up fragile, like a blank page waiting to be written on. If you don't choose the first words, the world will. Emails, deadlines, advertisements, opinions. All of them rush to scribble on your page before you've even held the pen. That is why the Stoics return to the same truths again and again, grounding themselves in reminders. Marcus Aurelius filled his private journals not to publish them, but to remind himself who he wanted to be. He wrote lines like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That was not philosophy for others. It was medicine for himself. This practice is what we might call a morning anchor. It's a simple, repeatable phrase or truth that centers you before the waves of the day begin. Think of it as setting the compass of your mind. Without it, you drift. With it, you know your direction even when storms hit. The beauty of this anchor is that it doesn't need to be complicated. It could be, I do not control what happens, only how I respond. Or, this day is a gift. I will not waste it in distraction. Or even, what matters most is how I carry myself. The power is not in the words themselves, but in the repetition. When you speak or write them every morning, they sink deeper than mere thoughts. They shape identity. On days when you feel anxious, the anchor pulls you back. On days when you feel lost, the anchor reminds you who you are. On days when the world demands too much, the anchor simplifies. Return to what matters. Return to truth. Try this tomorrow. After you rise and sit in silence, say your chosen line 5 or 10 times slowly with full attention. Feel it echo in your chest. Write it if you can to give it weight. Over weeks and months, this practice becomes armor. Because if you don't remind yourself who you are every morning, the world will make you forget. And forgetting is the fastest way to lose yourself. The first hour of the day is like wet cement. Whatever impressions are pressed into will harden and carry you forward. For most people, those impressions come from the outside world. Breaking news, messages, endless feeds. But when you let the world write on your mind first, you give away authorship of your own story. The Stoics practice the opposite. They met themselves before meeting anyone else. Through reflection, through writing, they shaped their thoughts before the world could shape them. Seneca wrote that a person is only as unhappy as he convinces himself to be. Reflection is the practice of interrupting that cycle. Instead of drifting into moods or impulses, you sit down with them and look them in the eye. You ask, what am I feeling right now? Do I need to carry this, or can I set it down? What can I be grateful for today? What virtue, patience, courage, discipline, will I practice above all else? These questions are not about filling a journal with pages of prose. Even a few lines can change the current of your day. The act of writing clarifies. Thoughts that seemed overwhelming shrink when put on paper. Emotions that felt heavy loosen their grip once named. Gratitude reminds you that you already stand on solid ground, even if challenges wait ahead. Choosing a virtue gives you a compass, a clear intention to carry into the day's storms. After only a week of this habit, you may notice yourself catching irritation before it explodes, or seeing fear before it paralyzes you. Reflection trains awareness, and awareness gives you choice. Without it, you are a passenger in your own life. With it, you step into the role of driver. This practice doesn't demand much. 5 or 10 minutes is enough. But the return is immense. You walk into the world steadier, less reactive, more intentional. And when distractions try to claim you, you already know who you are and how you will respond. That is what it means to master the mind before the world enters, to claim authorship over your inner life. The mind cannot carry the day alone. It needs a strong ally, and that ally is the body. The Stoics never separated the two. They trained both because they understood that weakness in one spills into the other. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he wasn't made to stay wrapped in blankets, but to rise and meet the tasks of a human being. Epictetus taught that discipline over the body builds discipline over the soul. To them, physical exertion wasn't about vanity. It was about willpower. Modern life encourages the opposite. We are surrounded by convenience, by chairs and screens and endless comfort. The temptation is to remain still, to postpone movement until it feels necessary. But a motionless body breeds a sluggish mind. Energy stays dormant. Thoughts remain foggy, and the day begins with heaviness. The quickest way to break this cycle is simple. Move. You don't need a marathon or a perfect workout routine. Even 10 minutes can reset your state. Stretch your arms as high as you can. Do a handful of push-ups beside the bed. Step outside for a brisk walk and feel the air on your face. Splash cold water over your skin, or even take a cold shower to jolt yourself awake. These are not fitness tricks. They are declarations of intent. With each movement, you tell yourself, I will not start this day passive. I begin in strength. The effects are immediate. Blood begins to flow. Oxygen fills the brain. Posture straightens, focus sharpens, and self-image rises. You start to look at yourself not as someone trapped by comfort, but as someone capable, resilient, alive. And most importantly, you train the will. Because every time you move when you don't feel like it, you strengthen the muscle of discipline. Do this consistently, and mornings transform. You no longer crawl into the day. You stride into it. You don't drag your body forward. You command it. And with your body alert and engaged, your mind follows suit, sharper and steadier. Movement is not separate from philosophy. It is philosophy in action. The most powerful secret of the morning is not only what you do, but who you decide to be. Before the noise of the world rushes in, you have a rare opportunity to shape your identity. The Stoics called this living in harmony with nature, becoming the best version of yourself, aligned with reason and virtue. And one of the most effective tools for this is mental rehearsal. Think of an actor before the curtain rises. They practice their lines, rehearse their gestures, imagine the scene over and over. When the spotlight hits, they don't freeze. They perform as if they've already lived it. You can do the same each morning. Close your eyes for a few minutes and imagine yourself stepping into the day as the person you most respect. See yourself walking into work with calm energy, responding to criticism with composure, speaking with clarity in conversations, choosing patience where you once would have snapped. At first it feels like pretending, but it isn't. It's training. By rehearsing these moments, you create a mental blueprint. When the real test comes, your mind recognizes it and knows what to do. Instead of falling into old patterns, you respond like the person you've been practicing to become. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Wasting time isn't just endless scrolling or meaningless tasks. It's drifting through days without intention, letting circumstances define you. Rehearsal prevents this drift. It ensures you're not just living by reaction, but by design. Over weeks and months, these small visualizations harden into identity. You stop imagining and start embodying. You become the one who stays steady in chaos, who speaks with truth, who acts with purpose. Others may think you were born that way, but you'll know the secret. You rehearse it every morning until it became who you are. Each morning is more than just another sunrise. It is an opening of fresh battlefield, a sacred chance to decide who you will be before the world decide for you. The Stoics knew this truth, and they lived it. And now you know it too. You have heard the 7 principles that can transform your mornings and, through them, transform your life. Wake with discipline, because the first battle is not with the world but with yourself. Protect the silence of your first hour, because peace is built before noise arrives. Face the day before it begins, so no challenge can surprise you. Anchor your mind with a daily reminder, because if you don't guide your thoughts, they will drift. Reflect before the world enters, because awareness is freedom. Move your body, because strength in the body feeds strength in the mind. And finally, rehearse the person you want to be, because identity is not found, it is forged. These are not lofty ideas reserved for philosophers or emperors. They are practical tools waiting for you tomorrow morning. No matter your age, your job, or your struggles, you can claim them. Most people will continue to sleepwalk through their mornings, scrolling, rushing, surrendering. But you are not most people. You are the one who chooses to lead, not to follow. So here is your challenge. Tomorrow, do not repeat the old pattern. Do not reach for the phone. Do not hide in the comfort of the blanket. Rise, breathe, claim your silence. Choose your anchor. Step into motion. Rehearse your best self. Win your morning, and the day cannot be stolen from you. And if these truths have struck something inside you, don't let them fade. Write in the comments, I own my morning. I own my life. Share this with someone who needs to wake up to their own strength. Subscribe, join this movement, and remind yourself daily that you are not here to drift. You are here to live with command. Because the difference between weakness and power, between regret and greatness, is born the first few minutes after the alarm rings. When tomorrow comes, remember this. The day is not given to you. The day is claimed by you.